life is a jungle gym and not a balancing act. 2010, I was fortunate enough to be selected as one of the Fortune mentees, where we were matched up. They kind of target what they call upcoming young women leaders from around the world, especially from developing countries. And then they match you up with Fortune 500 CEOs who are women, or COOs. So Patty Sellers, because Fortune works with the US State Department to do that. Patty Sellers is one of the people. So when I was reading the book, that jumped out at me because obviously she was instrumental in choosing me amongst many other amazing women. And the quote is, careers are a jungle gym, not a ladder. And I was like, well, obviously, for me that made sense. And I said, but that's what life is. So that's where the idea came from. Because I'm like, yeah, I mean, for me, that's just logical. Look at the pictures of those jungle gyms. They are different types. Huh? The designs are as diverse as the imagination you have. You can customize it to whatever the individual wants. Yeah? Based on your requirements, based on the space, based on your budget. It offers creative exploration. For me, that was the analogy that I really enjoyed, because that's what I think life is. I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think it is practical. I don't think this is what we should be striving for. And it should not be a female conversation, which is why I'm so sad that the minute men know something's on the 9th of August, or it's about work-life balance, it's a woman's thing. I think my cousin was supposed to be here. I haven't seen him yet, but he has RSVP'd just to show what kind of men we bring. So he's coming at some point. And Shamila's husband was also going to come, and work called. So there are some progressive men. And a special man sitting there. Yeah? Now, that's a man we all want. Yeah? Because it is not a female conversation. It really isn't. And I don't think it is even a correct conversation to have. I honestly don't. Because I see work as a slice of life. It's just a piece of what makes up our lives. So what do I think it should be about? I need to disclose because obviously when I continue, it would possibly make sense for me to set this context. So instead of work-life balance, what we should be talking about is consciously designing or baking your cake. Living consciously, basically, that's what I'm calling for. Assessing what did you put or have allowed, because now I'm very much into owning. I'm into this thing very much at the moment. Like whenever I'm doing that, how many fingers are facing me? So anytime I do anything and then it doesn't go well or does go well, I know I'm responsible for half of it. Capabilities and capacity to handle what is on your plate in terms of your resources. That's what we should be talking about. Taking action to create harmony despite the multiple roles. You know that paradigm, whether we live to work or work to live? I mean, for me, that's what this thing takes us back to those dark ages. We are now encouraged to make our passions a way that we earn a living. So then how do you then create this dichotomy? I mean, people laugh at, oh gosh, why are you sending me an email at 3 o'clock a.m.? Because for me, life is just life. And if I happen not to be falling asleep and I want to work at that particular time, I want to work at that particular time. So you can't really have a balance then in that sense. So it's essentially about roles. That's what I think about. For 5 minutes, we have our notepads in front of us. Can you just do this exercise for 5 minutes? Yeah. What roles do you have in your life in 2014? List all of them. All the roles we can think of. And for each role, even if you kind of draw something like a pie chart, so that we kind of see the cake and the different roles. For each role, put how many hours in a week you dedicate to that role thus far in 2014. So what do we propose as Sorry Leadership Partners? You should begin with the end in mind. What is it that you want your legacy to be? Because everything else, you go to the end. This exercise for me happened in 1995 when I started working. And you know the Covey course, you don't do time management in the conventional way. You do it with different principles in mind. And that really just, because not all of us, those students at the back are fortunate because they're having the conversation now. Most of us as teenagers don't have that ability to be thinking about these things. So you guys have no excuse. Yeah? This is the conversation you're going to have with yourself. What is your intention for your life? That's where you have to start. Everything is internal to you. What we experience, you being stressed, then you going this way. These are just behaviors. You're the only one that knows why you're doing the 101 things that you're doing. What are your intentions? Thus, you have to live consciously. Everything, kind of decision, anything you have to think about, it just has to be on a conscious level. Then you can be able to plug in, okay, where does this lead me in terms of where it is I want to go? I know people think it's morbid when you kind of think of, when I draw my last breath, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want to have accomplished? But it's the only way you're really going to hone in and focus on the things that matter. Because when that last breath happens, it's too late. Yeah? In the next life, you may not be Dudu Msomi. You may still come back, but you just won't remember Dudu Msomi. Yeah? For those that believe in reincarnation. So, living consciously means that you're not just reacting. You're not just going with other people's flow. Because believe me, those people have a plan. You're just reacting to somebody's plan. And I think you're doing a disservice to why you are on this earth. Yeah? When you're reacting to other people. So have a personal vision. That for me roots everything in life. And when you have a personal vision, this is why you don't get into companies that actually are not aligned to your vision. You're not going to have the exact words when you're reading a vision of a company and say, oh, it's like mine. But when you experience a culture, you go for an interview, you kind of get a sense of, this is not for me. Huh? When you know where you want to go to. But if you don't, the salary package will be more attractive. Yeah? And then you get there, then they wonder why we all job hopping. Yeah? Because you actually didn't think about those things. Even your partner. I mean, a number of my friends got to their 30s and they divorced. Because they didn't have that conversation. You know, the things you fight about sometimes are just principal issues that there's just nothing. I mean, there's a friend of mine, they were fighting about whether the child should sit at table having a meal or watching television.
Or where you squeeze the concrete.
You know? But I mean, in terms of just the vision for your life, you know, things like that. So if you misalign, that's what results in conflict, unhappiness, tensions, and stress. So that is where you should begin. Another quick one, it's a work in progress, because this doesn't end here. So we'll take 1 minute instead of 2. If you know it already, just write it. If you would like to start thinking about it, just put some ideas of whether I draw my breath at 50 or draw my breath at 100. What is that feeling that I want to have? What would I have accomplished? Okay. At least if you don't have one, it's a process. You can complete it maybe with hubby later. Sometimes your life makes sense. When you've done it, you kind of like, okay, this is why I'm having these issues. And then forces you to make certain decisions that you don't want to make. This one I just thought I'll share with you. This is the one I did in 1995. I've only changed it once ever because I added. And this, when you meet me and experience me, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And I don't ever apologize for it. So my vision is to live my life with passion, integrity, ecstasy, so that every day can be the last with no regrets and no fear. Yeah. My mission, how do I want to do that? To exude and have authentic understanding and leave the world a little better than I found it. Yeah. And that part I kind of, because before I was just happy with just understanding. And then I grew up at some point and I said, well, I'd like to also leave the world a little better, which was kind of the beginning of the evolution of Kusara Leadership Partners, where I want to use my gifts to do that. And for me, positioning was very important. I have 4 names, and it's very significant for me that I choose the names that I have. So my positioning is, I may not be perfect, but I'm always me, Dudu Msomi. And for me, that's critical. And that's why for me it's significant. I don't need to go to a big corporate to be Dudu Msomi and to feel important. When I introduce myself, I'm Dudu Msomi. Most people don't understand why I use my surname, because there are many other Dudus, and now there are many other Dudu Msomis. Believe me, Facebook has introduced me to a number of Dudus. Yeah, so for me that's significant, and hopefully at the end I'll share with you why that is critical. So personal vision really helps you filter. It helps you filter everything that bombards you in life. Yeah? So for me, life is a juggling game. Can you see that that map? The different number of balls. It's a juggling act. There are different number of balls, different number of roles. The roles I had as a 5-year-old are slightly different from the ones I have now. Yeah? Hopefully. Some are chosen by me, some by birth and circumstances. And at some point, you need to stop resisting birth and circumstances, because sometimes that's what causes most stress. Yeah? We're not all the same in families, we're not all the same in whatever, and we spend time resisting what is being thrust upon us. Sometimes you can also make a decision about that and say, you know what, if everybody around me is a useless case, I'm not going to be everybody's psychologist, but then you live with the consequences of ignoring everybody. But stop resisting. I mean, we used to have those conversations at Gibbs, but with the siblings or cousins. And I just tell people, everybody in your family has a role and is making you who you are. And you may not like the characteristics or the behaviors, but without them, you are not you. And at some point, just make peace and decide whether you need to budget for them. Yeah? You budget for them, because now you keep on being pissed off every month because calling you and asking for money. At some point, you just budget and say, this is your budget. Yeah? And the number of balls should depend on your resources, your competence, and your self-awareness. And if you're not self-aware, how many balls are you going to have? Yeah? What is the first thought you have when a juggler drops a ball? Guilt. Yeah? And this is why we feel guilty. too many balls, a good juggler never drops a ball. Because they usually know. One will know, I have 3 balls, that's all I can handle. When they give them 10 balls, they will drop balls because they don't have the competence to handle all those. Yeah? So you need to be self-aware. When you're dropping balls left, right, and center, you know there are some roles that you just need to start deleting. Added to that. Oh, you saw that survey about how much sex we're having in this country. You saw that? Because you just all just romancing your gadgets. Yeah? So don't be absent in your presence. Emotionally, your attention. It's the worst thing when you're talking to someone and they like keep on looking at their watch or their message. It's kind of like, is this more important than I? You know? And we do that to our kids, eh? You say, I'm at home, and you're not really at home. Yes. You're in bed, but you're not really in bed. The most precious gift you can give someone is your time and attention. I always say that. Which is why I'm always so honored when people choose, when we have seminars and master classes, because you have other choices. We don't take that for granted. You have other choices. You don't have to come here. And the fact that you choose that, because you're not going to get this time back. You covered the time. I really do appreciate it. I really do. How do we start eliminating the guilt and dropping the balls? Ask for help, please. The superwoman and superman syndrome is just not fashionable anymore. Yeah? You drop balls that way. And don't impose your superhuman expectations on your partner. And she's not going to go to the third one, because these have been captains of industries. And I just said, please don't tell me the names, because I'm never going to look at them the same. So she said, in a very tense meeting one time, and they were really having a hard time, it's like 5 o'clock, she gets called out of her office and get told that hubby is on the line. She goes and she's thinking, oh my God, what has happened? She gets on the phone and he says, there are no tomatoes in the fridge. And she said, is there something wrong with your car? And he's like, oh, she said she got home, she packed, and she said, we are divorcing. And she said, it's not about the tomatoes. It's about everything else that has happened. That was just, both of us are leaders. You're CEO of a powerful company, and you get me out of the meeting about tomatoes. Outsource. When I did the research on networking 2 years ago, every female CEO that I spoke to said, I wish I had a wife. Yeah? Because then I'll get things done. Which is why our husbands can accomplish more. Yes. Yeah? I think you also just need to be creative within your means and circumstances without negligence and placing in danger. I may steal like 2 minutes or 5 minutes. This is where I would like to share the story of my mother. My mother took us to boarding school at 7 or 8. Yeah? My mom married very young, but she still had dreams. And she understood what kind of a family she wanted to build. And she knew to build that family, she needed to study further. Luckily, she had a hubby who understood that. Because this thing started even before. When I was born, she was training somewhere. She gave birth to me and took me to Dad. And Dad used to change my nappies. I found a letter that she had written because I think I had flu, and she was saying my dad mustn't over-medicate me. You know? So even though she was trying to do all these things, she was struggling with her decisions. Yeah? But she had the support. I don't remember my mom not being there as a child. I don't. And the reason is, which was there, I felt a presence. You know, I actually thought my mom was a teacher. I started reading at about 4. I went to school early. I thought she was a teacher because I remember being taught things. So I started reading before I went to school, which is why I had to go to school early, because I could read and I didn't know why. So it is not about how many hours you spend. It is the times you spend. She outsourced the help that she needed. She understood where she wants her family to be, because I wouldn't be here. I love knowledge, I love education, I love many other things and volunteering. But this is why your personal vision, your husband's vision, your partner's vision kind of needs to be the same. In 2006, my sister fell ill. My mom called and said, you usually cheer her up, maybe you should come and see her. This was like a Tuesday. I said I'll be home on Saturday. My sister called on Wednesday, and she, for whatever reason I didn't question, she said goodbye. It was like 2:45 in the morning. I usually switch off my cell phone. I did not switch off my cell phone that night. And I said, I didn't even ask her goodbye from what. I just said, can you wait for me until Saturday? And she says, yes, I will. Wednesday, my mom calls and says, she's a bit down. I think you should come. And I was meeting one of the BEE big boys. And I was on the landline. Now, to switch from the landline to the cell phone, you need to switch off and then to speak later. And I didn't want to disrupt the conversation with my mom and my sister. And I sent an SMS, and I said, I'll be like 10, 15 minutes late. I just have an issue that I'm dealing with. By the time I got to the venue, he was gone. And this was also a friend, not just the BE bigwig. And I said, my sister is in a bad situation. I could not make them think I treasure work more than them at that particular time. I then got a call. My mom said, I think you better come because you usually cheer her up. I took the last flight on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock. I sent my sister an SMS and I said, I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I got home. We actually went to see her earlier because she was in hospital. She lit up. We then drove, went home. I usually used to like feeding her raspberries and stuff, so we stopped at Woolies. I think I was taking too long. So she told mommy to tell me to hurry up. And earlier she had actually asked for water, and I went and bought her water. And as we were driving, people who know Durban, Glenwood, near Ndabeni, near my home, she got so excited. So as we parked, and then we got her out of the car, she then said, I want water. And I remember Dad tried to rush through the house to go and buy her water, to get a glass of water, and I insisted that he use the water I had given her in the bottle. And so she drank. And this was about 22. Remember I had said, I'll see you at 2 o'clock? As we carried her, because as we were walking, she then just lost energy. As we got to her bedroom, she died in my arms. Yeah? It was the most painful experience, but the most ecstatic experience in my life, because I lived my vision. And this is what I tell everybody. Work-life balance does not work. You need to respond to your own vision. You need to respond to your roles in life. so that whatever vision you write becomes real for you. And 6 months later, when my father died as well, I was there. Because you have to prioritize. My business suffered a lot. I think it's only going to start picking up. There are a lot of things that suffered. And my friends were buying houses for 5 million and buying Range Rovers. I cannot compete with that. My roles and visions are different. I cannot compete with other people's decisions. And this is what it's about. It starts from the inside out. And in closing, I just want to say, live. Go and change the world. I don't think balanced people change the world. Because every time, different demands will be placed on you. When you're going to be writing a book, that's all you're going to be focused on. Your family will understand that because you've spoken to them. And you've shared that for the next 5 whatever months, this is what I'm doing. It's also about communication. So when you have a vision, those are visionary people to me. Visionary people do change the world. Thank you.